Hey, this is Daryl with a very quick introduction to today's show. On today's show, you're going to hear our interview with Kyle Martino, which we conducted in Chicago at the United Soccer Coaches Convention. Kyle talks about Goalpher, his new collapsible goal invention, talks about Street Soccer USA, where he's the chairman, also talks about the presidential run last year. Lots to get into, really good conversation with Kyle Martino. In the second part of the show, we talk to United Soccer Coaches Director of Coaching Education, Ian Barker, who you will have heard on a previous show. There's a really good interview Taylor did with Ian Barker around about December. Ian gets into details about rondos. If you don't know what a rondo is, it's essentially the game of keep away that a lot of high-level teams, you'll see Guardiola teams doing this all the time, but really all good teams have a good go at a rondo. So Ian gets really detailed about some pretty advanced rondos. I'm hoping any coaches out there will enjoy what Ian has to say, but also just anyone who's interested in soccer, I think should listen to that interview and get a detailed understanding of rondos. So 2 conversations that Taylor and I both very much enjoyed. I hope you enjoy them too. Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove. We're still in Chicago, still at the convention. I'm joined by the usual guy, Taylor Rockwell.
The usual guy. That's my introduction today. Thank you for that.
And making his second appearance on the Total Soccer Show, Mr. Kyle Martino. Kyle, welcome to the show.
I want to be called the usual guy.
The usual guy.
That's a good street name.
The usual guy is a good street name. All right.
You've got to make 600 more appearances, like Mr. Rockwell
I'm almost there.
So we're delighted to have you here.
Thank you.
First thing we've got to ask about is your voice.
Yeah.
Where's it gone?
I think I left it at a lobby bar last night with with my fellow former crew teammates. It was kind of a high school reunion last night.
Okay.
We some of us were able to see each other recently when we went to we went back to Columbus to put on our Legends game, which at the time when I had conceived it was going to be more of a funeral than a celebration because of where things were headed. So we came together there, and some of the guys that couldn't make it were here tonight, so we kind of redid it, and that's where my voice is.
And this was where you scored your magical set-piece goal, right?
Yes, and we're hoping we get the Puskas Award this year. I think we have a really good chance.
That was the most absurdly elaborate and amazing goal I think I've ever seen. So you should find that if you can. Yes, it's out there, I'm sure.
I will do that.
I'm sure it's got at least 100 likes by now.
I'll make it 101.
Yeah, perfect.
101. All right, it's 1 year on since the last convention where we first saw you, and obviously that was the presidential election. You didn't win. That's not news to you. 1 year later, you are here with an element of your campaign is something that you've been presenting here, right? And we'd love to ask you about that.
Yeah. So I'll say that I'm lucky I didn't win. And that can go in many different directions. The easy first direction is I'm enjoying this convention so much because I'm not here to get votes. Okay. And it's been incredible to walk through the exhibit hall, see all the amazing, innovative things, all the people that love this game, are passionate about this game, and the community that the game brings together. And this is our Comic-Con. It's nice to go through that and just be able to be a soccer nerd and enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm lucky because since the election, the momentum that we created, and I was the spearhead or the face and the voice of a big group behind me, whether it was my campaign team all volunteering to help me do something special, or the many, many people that contributed to the ideas and the thoughts that we brought out in our progress plan and other things. One of the issues of consequence that was most important to me during the election was access to the game. Mm-hmm. So the second the election was over, and I went back home to make sure I was still married. We're
good there, right?
Yeah, all good for right now. Yeah, she's thank God she still deals with me. I took a break. I refreshed. I went back to NBC and was so grateful to get back to that family, and immediately got to work on. Okay, well, I didn't win that. That's not a reason to put all this down and go back to the way things were before. I was never going to be able to do that. So I immediately got lost and consumed with trying to solve the access problem. The first thing I did was humbled to take the chairman role at Street Soccer USA, an incredible organization that's been around for a decade, bringing programs and fields to inner city kids who are priced out of the game. The next was, how do I create IP? How do I take my profile and ideas to take what is not an abstract idea of soccer goals underneath basketball hoops, but the over-under initiative during the election was to say, this is an easy thing, we should be doing it. And everyone said, yeah, we agree, but no one really had a solution. So I immediately got lost in trying to solve that. And so my solution is Goalpher that I demoed and unveiled yesterday. And then Street FC, I need to stop starting companies and doing so much, but Street FC is another piece to improve access for us and for everyone. And the easy explanation is it's kind of the soul cycle of pickup soccer to bring the game to very dense populations that have access problems or enjoyment problems or cost problems as adults or youth.
So these are two separate things. There's Goalpher, which is how the Over-Under project grew into, and Street FC. Are they connected in some way?
So, they're connected in that they both solve a problem. So the brainstorming session or the genesis of both of them came out of the way I played the game as a youth. I played a lot of pickup soccer, played a lot of pickup soccer with adults, played a lot of pickup soccer with Latino Caribbean adults. So it was an incredible part of my development. And also it was a way as a sheltered kid in an affluent town to meet people that didn't look like me, that didn't sound like me, that had different beliefs, different backgrounds. And so it was, the beauty of soccer as a conduit that connects you to so many things in the world. It was so special to me. And I looked up during the election when I was studying the game and the landscape and saw the kids aren't doing that. And they're in these very overcoached, and this is an anti-coach rant, very overcoached, very sterile, very expensive atmospheres that one is making them fall out of love with the game, but worse, it's locking so many kids out that could feel the benefit of it. So Street FC was my way to kind of activate pickup soccer as I experienced it again, and get friends of mine that weren't playing again, get friends of mine that were playing, that were dissatisfied, enjoying it more. And then get people that don't play at all to realize you don't have to be good, you don't have to have ever played before to start playing soccer at any age in your life.
So how does it work? How does Street FC get people doing that? You mentioned Soul Cycle, but Soul Cycle, I imagine you're on a bike and someone's yelling at you, so it's not.
We don't yell at you. I'm going to be coy, but not obnoxiously coy, because there's a lot of business design behind it that we're still in the beta stage that we're working on. My partner in this is Dennis Crowley, who started Foursquare. And
yes, we know Dennis.
He and I are trying to figure out how do we combine my playing at every single level and being passionate about the game and without sounding condescending, having a PhD in the game. How do we take that? And take him finding the game recently and falling in love with it, and these are his words, not being any good at the game, but wanting to engage in it, wanting to play regularly, and wanting to connect with people where there is no barrier to entry, and you don't have to qualify to be in this group. So we started out with that premise, and he was the perfect partner for myriad reasons, but we represent kind of the scale and the scope of age neutral, gender neutral, talent neutral, socioeconomic neutral, and we essentially started with, okay, how do we solve access? That was my focus, and immediately I said basketball courts. So there are 1,800 basketball courts in New York City. I refuse to accept that there is an access issue. I refuse to accept that you have to go and kick off at midnight at Pier 40, and that's your only way to access and play the game. I push back on this idea that the field has to look this way, it has to be this size, it has to have these goals. And so I wanted to push people to understanding everywhere else in the world, first off, can make a goal out of anything, but also the majority of kids find this game on hard surfaces in inner city communities.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of that, and we have a lot of that that's not activated and it's not being used. So I immediately focused on that and began running games. And now that we have a competitive format that I love, that's inclusive, that people are enjoying, and they're giving me feedback every day, we're trying to figure out the technology to wrap around that to make sure that you feel a part of a community that makes it so easy for you to go and play soccer.
And so you were over here demoing it yesterday, right?
So the Goalpher was, so one, you kind of you back into these things and reverse engineer solutions by saying, okay, start with the premise and the problem. So if I say access, you say, okay, well, then you need to find fields. If I say, okay, I found fields, they're not the ones you're thinking of, they're basketball courts, you have to say, well, how does it become a soccer court? And the first thing you've got to do is say, okay, can we get to it and can we play on it? Yes. Where are the goals? And so there are a lot of ways to solve that. I wanted to solve it in a permanent way that shifted a culture to say it's supposed to be there. We're not sneaking onto a basketball court or a tennis court or a handball court and hoping no one kicks us off. Sport is important. Don't pick one, and especially in this country where there are so many sports. I'm pushing back on this idea that you need to specialize at a sport in a young age. Go play sports. Don't pick one. And so now we take a basketball court, a handball court, a tennis court, and in order to create something permanent that tells you it belongs there, in this country you also have to make it go away so that you can play the sport that surface was meant for.
It's just got to be, you got to
get in and get out, yeah.
Yeah, and so in South America and in Europe, almost every basketball court you go by has a soccer goal underneath it that's permanent, that's large, but really they allowed them to put a basketball hoop over their soccer goal. So it's a different world here. So every group that I need to say yes to this said, Kyle, we love what you're doing. We love the idea of you using this as a soccer field. And one head of a Parks and Rec said the goal just has to disappear afterwards. And he was not being he wasn't being mean. He said it tongue-in-cheek, but he meant it can't be there when people want to come play basketball. So
why do you think that is?
Liability, and also we are a basketball country much more than we are a soccer nation, right? So in order to get people that have their hands on the lever to say yes, you need to not be intrusive and obstruct what it was designed to do, and slowly help them see it's designed to do so much more. So I began thinking, okay, New York City, it's got to disappear. Well, I had an apartment that was about the size of the booth we're in right now, and I couldn't fit a couch and a bed in there at the same time, so I got a Murphy bed. So I said, okay, well, my pull-out couch, the attic staircase, the Murphy bed, the access panel to the basement, all these things disappear, but open up and make a space very dynamic. So I began trying to create a subterranean goal system that could disappear and pop up and have the integrity and the playability of a permanent goal, but the quick setup and takedown of a portable goal. And Goalpher was the result.
And so I enjoyed the combination of words you used that were competitive and easy, because they were demoing it yesterday. When we saw the schedule, I think it said 10 to 1 was the demo time. We were like, there's no way he's doing a 3-hour presentation. And I say that to say that then I was talking to Jason Davis yesterday, and I was like, oh, how was your interview with Kyle? And he was like, it was good. It was a little bit late. And I was like, why? He was like, because you wouldn't leave the court. So I guess you wouldn't lose. There we go.
Because I was playing.
So it's competitive.
And by the way, I made a big mistake by telling people, I'm going to present it from 10 to 1. A presentation needs to start at some point. People can't just come at any point. So I learned a lesson there, but it was great because we started with only 4 or 5 people there, and when I finished, there were a couple hundred people there. And then afterwards, the beauty of when you set these goals up, it's an invitation to play. Yeah. And I don't need an invitation. When I got on the court, I'm going to play until I'm falling over. And unfortunately, and I apologize to Jason, that's what happened. But the goal is it's not a panacea, and I'm not smarter than anyone that came before me. The innovation is in the patented design, not in the idea. The idea was someone else's a long, long time ago. But it's so easy to do this in this country, and it's a low-cost, incredibly high-impact solution.
Here's my question is then, I'm assuming, I don't know how all the technology and the design works. I'm assuming once it's removed, it has to be taken away, right?
No, so the beauty of the design is the goal. I designed a goal, and the engineers, and I love them, from Keeper Goals, and they're in Milwaukee. They've been this 3rd-generation company, and a father and a son are still there, and they make they customize sports equipment, and they make terrific goals. And I was connected to them through Mark Boterill, who leads and is an executive at Bonet. And so here are 2 quote-unquote competitors. They're not competitors at all. They said, this is amazing. Let's get together and try to solve this. And so I told them what I wanted to do, and the engineer said, you can't do that. And so every single portable goal hinges and folds at the most important part for them, which is the bottom of the post and the front of the floor bar. So everything kind of folds onto itself. The thing that does is it limits where you can put these and what you can do, but it also makes the crossbar very weak.
Right.
So the beauty of, there's a game out there, the crossbar game is a game within a game, because hitting the crossbar is like a tuning fork in your soul. So there were a few things I needed to happen. I needed the goal to perform and react like a real permanent goal, but I had to get rid of it, and I had a basketball hoop pole or two poles obstructing my ability to fold it backwards if I wanted the goal to rest on the end line of the basketball court, to use those lines. So immediately I said, well, I want to fold it face down instead of back. And they said, well, you can't do that. And I said, I'll show you that we can do it. And I was up from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. building a model like I was in 6th grade that I have in my bag with me right here, and I'll show it to you.
Your wife is still okay with all this.
And we're still together after this point. And so I did that, and I showed it to the engineer, and he said, oh, so essentially the strongest point that everyone makes a hinge, I made slide and move, which is the bottom of the post, slides backwards so that the crossbar is attached to the back angle and folds face down. That way, the post of the hoop is in the middle of my goal and doesn't obstruct you putting it down and covering it with a flap. So now you can play basketball and you don't even know it's there.
Okay, so this
it's still tough to understand. Go to at the Goalpher or at Goalpher on Twitter and Instagram, and we have up the video that shows how it works.
I just want to jump in just to say that it's worth noting that when we were hanging the banner that's on the front of this table, Daryl couldn't figure out how to do the tape. Daryl's not known for his DIY skills, so if he's slowly starting to understand, then you've done an amazing job of explaining it. I want to put that out there.
I'll show you, because it's not beneficial to your audience to show you now. After we get off, I have it in my bag. The original model that I made out of cardboard I have with me that now is hilarious and embarrassing, but it is the first time the idea in my head was tangible and you could hold it, and now there's a goal in the exhibit hall that's ready to be installed into a basketball court, and it's exhilarating, it's terrifying, it's overwhelming, it's incredible, and I'm not going to be able to do this alone. So many people are helping me try to figure out how to do it.
So do you have any engineering background? Because
No.
It sounds like the engineer said you can't do this.
No, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. No, I don't. But, I think my dad was a really, really talented executive in the marketing world. And he worked for IBM for 40 years. And his talent was seeing something and understanding how you get it across to consumers and take it to market. So I just, by osmosis and being around him, I've learned a lot about what people need to see and what they need to hear, and in a weird way that helps me visualize what you need to make. And so I guess my bravado and cockiness, which gets me in trouble sometimes, it just made me pursue something that everyone said you couldn't do. And in a kind of like insecure way, I needed to make sure I wasn't stupid and it wasn't silly. And I had to at least show that you could do it, even if they said that model's great, it's never going to work. Right. So I don't know. I just like my head has whatever that is in that executive function to see shapes and objects and try to figure out what's the solution for them to make them more user friendly.
Was there a moment where you showed the engineer how the thing they said couldn't work could work? And
so
they were like, "Oh,
yes."
Good.
So
Goodwill Hunting.
I kept explaining it on the phone. And John Moynihan is the president and running Keeper Goals, who had a very talented engineer that they have in-house on the phone. And they kept saying, Kyle, we have no idea what you're talking about. And I promise you, you can't make what you're talking about. And I made the model, and I filmed me putting it up and putting it down. I sent it to them, and I said, call me after you watch this. And they called me, and they said, oh. And that was the beginning of the engineer process. So we had to start with a premise that we agreed was possible.
Yeah.
And then they helped solve so many problems in order for that to be a mechanism that actually works.
See, I feel like you speak very modestly, but that must feel good, right?
I mean, here's what feels amazing is I don't care if it's a song you wrote, a drawing you drew, a video you filmed. When you create something,
a podcast you recorded.
No, but seriously, I'm sure the first time you recorded it and you said, "Are we going to put this out there?" I mean, you feel so vulnerable, and you think this is going to be embarrassing, and someone's going to crush my dream that this is good. And a lot of the things I've come up with are terrible, but I believed in this so passionately that when I sent it out, to have even one person validate it was incredible. To see the response we got when we unveiled it the other day, and watch people that design goals, and they've been doing it since the 50s, say this is great. It feels so amazing, not in a like I'm smart sort of way. It feels amazing because we can do this, and that's the amazing part. Like, I'm filled with all of this optimism about we're gonna do this. Not, man, I'm smart. That was really cool that I did that, because there are a lot of things I'm not good at.
Hey, this is Daryl jumping in to let you know that today's show is sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek, SeatGeek. I say that because some people say they don't know what I'm saying when I say SeatGeek. Getting tickets online used to be complicated, used to be confusing, but SeatGeek is the way to go. SeatGeek pulls millions of tickets into one place so you can easily find the seats you want for a price you're willing to pay. I opened up the SeatGeek app here on the iPad, and obviously I couldn't help but be drawn to January 27th, the international friendly between the United States men's national team and Panama. It's Greg Berhalter's first game in charge. It's in Glendale, Arizona. I see tickets listed here for around $43. I also, if I click on it using the SeatGeek traffic light system, it will show me green is for good, orange is for maybe, red is don't buy these tickets, they're not good value. So SeatGeek is pulling in ticket information from a variety of online sellers and letting me know what's a good ticket and what isn't. Best of all, if you want to buy a ticket to this game, get a real close-up look. We'll be paying close attention to this game. You can be even closer if you go to the game. You can get $10 off a ticket. $10 off a ticket if you do this. Download the SeatGeek app. Enter the promo code TSS, that's TSS, and you'll get $10 off your first SeatGeek purchase. So the promo code is TSS for $10 off your first SeatGeek purchase. SeatGeek, life's an event. We have the tickets.
Genuine question that, like, feel free to crush this one too if you want to. But it seems like a lot of this is in the wake of the United States failing to qualify for the World Cup. And it seems like Dennis Crowley's doing a lot of work as well. You mentioned him previously. And I am wondering, like, do you think, not that it's obviously not a great thing to miss a World Cup, but do you feel like this type of initiative, like the work you're doing, the work that other people are doing, a lot of the grassroots work, do you think that stuff happens without that failure to qualify?
No.
Or do you think we kind of continue on the same path?
Listen, if we didn't fail to qualify, and failing to qualify is not the problem, right? It was a serious low point that was demonstrative of a lot of poor governance and bad decisions that were papered over by terrific athletes on the men's and women's side that performed at a very high level, due in part because of the good things that these organizations are doing. So I push back on this idea that U.S. soccer isn't doing any good, or that, we need to break this down, burn it down, and build it again. But it allowed a moment for accountability where a audience, a fan group, a country that is a soccer nation stood up and said it's not good enough, and we don't accept that it can't be better. And in that moment and at that inflection point, many came forward, whether it was running in the election or standing up, and said, we demand and we deserve better. And so getting up and speaking and everyone getting an election is the reason we had the first democratic process in a very, very long time. Mm-hmm. Now, the democratic process is still very broken because no one on the outside could win that election, right. And that was pretty clear. And the fact that we even got remotely close proved that we're making some serious strides. But I said it earlier, losing the election was the best thing that could happen, because spending the time to design Goalpher and Street FC and Street Soccer USA, I wouldn't be doing any of these things if the men didn't fail that night in Trinidad, and I couldn't do any of these things if I won the election.
like I hope this doesn't come across as like insulting. It's a great way to begin this, but like,
no, insult what?
Did you feel like you could win the election? Because I agree with you that it kind of felt like I thought your platform was good. You came on the show, we listened to your speech or your one-on-one session, but it always kind of felt to me like it's going to be Kathy Carter or Carlos Cordero because of the system that's in place. Did you feel that same thing, or did you genuinely feel like I can do this if I get everybody together? If everybody comes together, then maybe I can pull that off.
Yeah, there was one moment during the election. And I was sitting there with my incredible team, all volunteers, giving so much of their time to run because we all believed in the message and we all believed in change. We sat there after a really long night and popped a beer and sat back in our chairs, and everyone was kind of quiet and reflecting on the day. And I can't remember who it was, but someone in the group said, I think we can win. Mm-hmm. And we all kind of looked at each other and we were like, we let belief, come and excite us and intoxicate us for a moment.
It's a dangerous thing.
Yeah. It's a dangerous thing. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. I knew, and I've said this now in interviews a few times, I knew the night before the election that it was over and that I couldn't win. And I knew because I found out from an athlete that they were blocking to vote for Carlos Cordero. And we did the calculus, and I had people so much smarter than I am that had done spreadsheets and projections, and we knew what we had to do, and we basically had to have the game of our lives to win. And the second that the athletes decided to block, the election was over. Because the system is designed where there's a tiny, very, very small group with a very specific interest that has a remarkable weight and influence on the electorate and on the voting process, and essentially can move the entire election based off of pushing a button. And the second they decided to block, that gave that group the power to decide who they wanted to be the president of U.S. soccer. And so that's broken, that's wrong. We've now highlighted that, and my hope is that the next time around we push for election reform so that it is not a impossible task to win from the outside.
And as far as you know, are there any groups that are working towards, like, that people could get involved with, or could, like, maybe push a little bit more awareness of how you could maybe go about getting reform, or maybe getting a little bit more transparency in that electoral process?
Well, there's no one group, and here's my big thing: we need to stop complaining about U.S. soccer or Major League Soccer and blaming them for things. First off, it's inaccurate. They don't deserve this, you've done no good, you are the bane of our existence thing. Major League Soccer gave me my dream. I believe it's an incredible league. So many of the hard decisions they made were for the betterment of the league. So many of the hard decisions they had to make is why we have these incredible clubs with these remarkable supporters groups. But there was a demarcation point of diminishing returns where the way things were governed and some of the decisions that were being made, whether that's U.S. soccer or Major League Soccer, started to impact the game because what was good for one was not good for the other. So division between church and state is necessary at this point, but we have to stop complaining and hoping they fix it. We can do a lot of these things from the outside, and while we're there blaming and slandering and pointing fingers at people that don't deserve the vitriol passed at them. And even if they did, why is it helpful to spend energy doing that? We need to say, listen, some of these problems they can't solve, they're not designed to solve, and they shouldn't solve. We can solve so much of this from the outside. So why don't we get together and push for more accountability, push for a better process, push for better governance, push for transparency, but spend very little of our time doing that and spend much more of our time galvanizing on the outside and getting together to solve problems.
Well then, sorry, do you have one about that?
I was going to say, part of my thinking is, like, the US is such a huge country. US soccer is one federation. I feel like everybody looking to them to solve problems, it's almost impossible for them to solve problems.
Yeah, we're the size of Europe, and they are a small organization.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's more of a statement than a question, I guess. But
it's okay. I'll turn it into a question when you're done.
But the idea of what you're doing, I hope
just raise your voice at the end of it.
It sets an example for people to, be the change you want to see in the world, kind of thing, right? If you want to make something happen, don't just keep complaining at Carlos Cordero. go out and do it, maybe.
Yeah, and maybe first of all, good voice raise, and I would say maybe go out and get involved in street soccer. That would be a very good way that you could go about kind of like bringing about change and getting more people involved at a very grassroots level for people who could definitely use that like assistance and getting reintegrated into society. So I feel like that is something I'd like to hear.
U.S. Soccer is one federation, one membership, one member services organization. There are many grassroots programs out there. Street Soccer USA is a cog in a very big wheel of people doing incredible things. The South Bronx United Group and Soccer in the Streets and who have the soccer station at MARTA in Atlanta and
Goalpher.
And Goalpher. Goalpher needs to be there immediately. And all of these organizations have basically said, we'll roll up our sleeves and we'll get to work. And you hope that U.S. Soccer sees, helps, empowers these organizations to do more. But we can't wait for that. I mean, we just have to hope and believe the right people in the right positions will activate these things. But if we wait for it, it's work we're not doing. And I get much more credit than I deserve. So many people have been doing so many things for a long time to improve this game.
A lot of these things need a high-profile public face.
Yeah, and that's where we can lend our profile. Instead of me wanting clicks and to say hyperbolic things and create sound bites, I'm here away from and not to joke about this because it's important. My wife has made a huge sacrifice, and she has supported so much because she is a working mom to allow me to come do these things, and it puts strain on my family. I miss my kids, and I want them to see and believe, just like their mother does, they have a father that stands up for things, and he's not just someone on TV that says something and then doesn't back it up.
If you don't mind, I would like to use your branding brain for a moment, because we're both involved in street soccer in Richmond where we do the show.
Yeah.
And one thing I get a lot that I still haven't been able to find a very succinct way of explaining is people will ask, not necessarily critically, but they'll ask why are you trying to get homeless or people in need? Why are you trying to get them to play soccer? Shouldn't you be getting them into a facility where they can live? Do you have a good way of explaining street soccer so that people can think it's more than just getting homeless people to play soccer?
Yeah. Well, let me just start with how Street Soccer USA began and the origin of this incredible organization that has 8,000 kids in it and is in, moving towards almost 20 cities. Lawrence Can and Rob Can, the brothers, the CEOs that started it, overnight became homeless because their house burned down in Charlotte, and soccer got them back on their feet, and it connected them to people who were more than willing to help. They shared a common interest and a common love, and before they knew it, they were back on their feet, and they went off and had great educations, and now are going back to using that tool to help others. So there are few vehicles on the planet that are more successful and empowering individuals and communities, and then you're talking about the positive health, educational, and professional consequences of that. And in a moment in our culture in the States where it's ugly out there and it's as divisive as it's ever been, and people are hurting, and there's a lot of disparity, and there are a lot of people in echo chambers not listening to one another, sport is kind of the last bastion of people diametrically opposed sitting down for a moment and having a conversation. And it's while you have them in that second, you can say, let's all work to bring people into this world that can do so much for them. And the intersection of sport and social justice right now with Nike Kaepernick's ad and all sorts of things, it's proof of concept that there's a health crisis going on with kids dropping out of sport. In the Latino communities, obesity is rampant at the youth ages. So there are so many benefits to getting people to play the easiest, most affordable, and most accessible for dense populations game and format. And then it's not mutually exclusive. Do the other things. Don't donate to health organizations, to educational organizations, volunteer. This is just one idea, but it happens to be the idea that connects the entire world.
There we are. All right.
Final
I
question.
don't know if you can put that on a bumper sticker, though. That might take a while.
You can. It just be real small
Yeah,
font.
exactly.
But, just tailgate. You can read it. It's fine.
A really big car.
Final question is about implementation. So you're here, showcasing Goalpher.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when could people expect to actually see it on courts around the United States?
We have a major city. Their head of Parks and Rec has agreed to buy out the program, and we'll announce that here pretty soon. A few schools in New York City and a park in New York City have all agreed to help start it and get it in the ground, which the first one will probably be installed in the next 3 months. There's a few big organizations behind us that I can't say at this point, but it's going to be really exciting when we can announce that. So this year we will have Goalpher in the ground. My hope is next year it will be a product on the marketplace that we don't have to get a yes from municipal organizations and other groups to put it in. We have a product that if you want it, get me the person that wants it, we'll get you the goal, and then it just takes off is my hope.
I'm thinking of all the different places, like the disused tennis courts in downtown Richmond that could be turned into very usable soccer fields in areas where you can't otherwise find fields. So it's up here now. I'm excited.
Right. I've only just got the name as well. Is it Goalpher because it goes back under?
Yeah. So of course, I can't help but be cheesy and have double entendres and all sorts of fun little ways to get it out there, so people say, "Oh, it's a dad joke." That's great.
Carl, I know you've got a presentation coming up, so we want to make sure you can rest your voice. Tell him I have one more question.
I just want to say this for listeners: the other reason why Kyle Martino's voice, as far as I understand, is a little bit scratchy at the moment is because Kyle, I had the reunion with his teammates, then woke up. What time were you up this morning?
So I woke up at 5:45 this morning to go to AJ Hudson's near Wrigley to watch West Ham Arsenal with the Chicago Hammers, and then didn't take much to twist my arm. Just like I was late for Jason, I stayed there. To watch a little bit of the Brighton-Liverpool game as well.
I mean, the video you posted with the I'm not a Liverpool fan, but the entire bar singing "You'll Never Walk Alone." I get that. I'm just saying that's Kyle Martino. He's social justice, and then with his old teammates, and then with people in bars in Chicago. And now he's here with us. So it's been a whirlwind journey over the last 24 hours, I'm sure. But thank you, Kyle, for taking the time.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on. Did you have one last question, or was that it?
No, Taylor had that question. I was in favour of just letting you rest your voice.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me on, guys.
So thank you again to Kyle Martino for taking the time to sit down with us in Chicago.
His voice rivals mine for graveliness as well.
I'd like to have seen his 2 days later, or I guess heard his, to see how he's doing. We might see him on TV this weekend. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's a good shout, because he was then going after our interview to go do a whole presentation.
Yeah, maybe he's just bottomed out after that.
Maybe he took the week off and relaxed, hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed for Kyle.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. There's another interview to come on today's show. It's with Ian Barker, who's the Director of Coaching Education for United Soccer Coaches, which basically means he's the top guy.
That was Off the Dome from Daryl Grove, the full title. Well done, my friend.
We're going to be talking about rondos. We're going to get really detailed on rondos, the 4v4+3 that you've seen Greg Berhalter mention that he likes to do with the US national team. Lots of detail about rondos in our interview with Ian Barker coming up.
It's rare to see Daryl actually geek out over a topic when it comes to soccer. He geeked out a little bit in this one.
I've been slowly learning more and more about rondos, so now I know too much.
I mean, I geek out over plenty. There's no judgment here.
Speaking of geeking out, we have a new sponsor on today's show, and it's a sponsor that we signed up in Chicago at the convention.
Yep.
It is Talisman Caps. Talisman Caps. I want to talk a little bit about how this came to be, how we first became aware of Talisman Caps back in the day.
Sure. I mean, so it's worth noting they're a high-end maker of quality caps for your head. I would say the first time we became aware of them was at the last convention in Philadelphia.
Yes. When
our friends the Cooligans were repping some high-quality Talisman hats.
Am I right in thinking Alexis was wearing the pink Andrea Pirlo with a glass of wine cap?
Other way around.
Oh, it's Christian. Excuse me. Yeah. I get those two confused. I never know which one is which.
Alexis had the Beardana, the Diego Maradona with a glass of beer.
Beardana. So you can tell from what we're describing, these are caps for soccer fans with one of the things they do, not the only thing they do, is they have iconic players. And they have great images of these players, I'm going to say embroidered onto the front of the cap. And the player is very much recognizable. I'm looking at my Carlos Valderrama one I've got right here.
There you go.
You can spot LP from a distance.
You really can. You really can. The fro gives it away.
The fro does give it away.
But we could spot the Cuauhtemoc Blanco one. We came across that one when we were on tour in Chicago. It was the launch party for that one. We both have a Cuauhtemoc Blanco Chicago Fire hat.
First cap I ever bought in my entire life.
What?
Yep. I wasn't really a cap person, but I saw that and I thought, oh, this is a kind of one of a kind of thing. Turns out they're two of a kind because you've got one as well.
This is true.
But it's a rare kind of thing to have such an iconic soccer image on a baseball cap.
This is very true. So yeah, you can get your favorite player, your favorite club. They've got lots of different options there for clubs both big and small, which was very much appreciated. But then they've also got the kind of organizations that they work with. I have a street soccer one, for example.
You do.
I like that one quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that one benefits street soccer as well, right?
Yeah, and the support local hats that they've got. And then they've got, individual cities. They've got the Atlanta hat. That one I could identify pretty readily.
It had 3 letters on it. You can guess what they are.
And lots of Minnesota because they're based out of St. Paul, Minnesota.
Yes, they are. It's worth really noting this is an independent company, right? It's Dustin and Bethany. I think Dustin played in MLS, played for Kansas City Wiz, as they were then. And now he designs the caps and Bethany is involved in the business. So this is a real independent operation.
Their daughters as well. I think one of their daughters does a lot of the organizing.
Oh, really? All right. Making fashionable soccer-themed caps. Taylor, do you have a second to kind of explain what type of cap this is that I'm holding? Because I am cap ignorant.
You are cap ignorant. First of all, it's got like the
How dare you? I'm allowed to say it. You're not.
The snap back. I'm sure that's not what it's actually called, but it snaps. It's not any sort of twists or ties or pulley systems that some hats go for, which I do appreciate. Then you can either do the dad cap with the slight curve or the flat brim. And then I would say they're more...
Flat brim seems like the weird fashionable thing that everybody's into these days.
I would say so. And then they're like a little bit more like canvasy than they are like some other sort of fiber. I say that only to say that there's like a little bit of looseness to the top of the hat, which I appreciate because it's more flexible than some rigid thing, because sometimes then it looks like you've got this weird like domed head if the fabric is a little bit too rigid.
So there you go. That is Talisman Caps. We're hoping they're going to be a long-time sponsor of the Total Soccer Show, but only if our listeners support them. So go to talismancaps.com.
You should. You should check them out because they have so many different options. They've got like a curated collection of vintage jerseys as well. They've got lots of little like stamps and stickers and pins and lots of different stuff to check out. It's just an interesting site to peruse. And then maybe buy some stuff too.
Talismancaps.com. And if you use the discount code Total Soccer 20. Total the word, soccer the word, 20 the numbers, Total Soccer 20. You'll get 20% off if you spend $35 or more. And then $35 is the usual cost of one of the caps.
So it all makes sense.
It all makes sense.
Yes, I wore my Talisman cap yesterday. I wore it today. I plan on wearing it consistently because I do like them quite a bit.
And if you want to get yours, again, talismancaps.com. The link will be in the show notes, as will the discount code Total Soccer 20 for 20% off.
So thank you to Talisman Caps for starting to sponsor the Total Soccer Show.
Yeah.
We very much appreciate that. We very much appreciate Mr. Ian Barker, who took the time. He was a man in demand. I saw people constantly stopping him to shake his hand, to talk him up about rondos, but about lots and lots of other stuff. Usually their opinion on stuff, which I'm amazed at the calmness with which he approached those conversations.
We were very honoured. We got to say hello, shake his hand on the field before he gave the inaugural demo of the 2019 United Soccer Coaches Convention. I felt very honoured at that moment.
We were sort of treating it as hallowed ground, like we weren't stepping onto the turf, and he's like, you can walk on it, you know? He was a bit more laid back than we were when it came to that initial presentation.
Well, he's done a lot more sessions in front of crowds than we have.
That's probably true.
Yes,
probably true.
So here is
we've done the 8.
Here's our interview with Ian Barker, all about rondos. Ian Barker, second time on the Total Soccer Show. First time with Daryl.
There it is.
This is really the first time, right?
Yeah.
So
hurtful.
We're here at the United Soccer Coaches Convention. We saw you open the entire thing with your rondos demo. So we wanted to get you in here and really talk about rondos.
Dig deep on the rondo topic.
Yeah.
So it was inspired in the most sinister of ways by Twitter.
Yeah. You referenced a long-running debate.
Yeah, so somebody had got on there and said they'd been at a course and they were told they could never ever do a rondo ever again. They were forbidden. So some people got upset about that, the prohibition of rondos. Other people said rondos are useless. Other people said, what's a rondo? I myself, despite being the Director of Coaching Education, wasn't really quite sure of the definition. So I just got in the Twitter world and said, all right, tell me what a rondo is.
Yeah.
And got a myriad of responses, many of which were contradictory.
Interesting.
And so what I did was I took essentially the smorgasbord that was provided to me of rondo genius, and then presented 7 or 8 rondo themes on Wednesday night that were inspired by all the different responses I got. So, for example, real quick, it's got to be a rectangle, it's got to be a square, it can be a circle, it can be a triangle. The team that's numerically down has to always be numerically down. It has to have transition, it has to go to goal. So it was just ridiculous how many people, and then of course all the people that said you can't prohibit rondos were willing to prohibit things within rondos that you weren't allowed to do. So I just finally said, I'm tired of this, I'm just going to go do what I think looks like fun, and then said to the audience, here they are, you see if you can use them.
Do you have a preferred sort of style though?
Well, the one I think is by far the strongest, and a couple of people that criticised my session on Wednesday who weren't there through all of the session missed the one that they all can kind of consensus like, and it's the one you can find on YouTube a lot. Bayern Munich, there's a lot of it. It's basically you take 3 central players and put 1 at each end of the grid and 1 in the middle. And then you put 4 defenders in against that 1. And then you put 4 of your flank players on the outside. So the 4 flank players on the outside and the 3 through the middle are a 7. And the 4 are trying to dispossess.
Right.
And the idea of that is essentially you've got your central players who have that kind of vision, which requires a little bit more periphery, and then the flank players in their natural kind of outside space. And that one, if you watch Guardiola use it, it clearly has crossover to the game, because you're talking about breaking lines, you're talking about bringing pressure in, there's transition components, doesn't have goals and goalies. So that one is a pretty strong one, and I think that one's got a lot of legitimate technical and tactical application.
So one thing I noticed with that is it seemed like the goal was to go from one end to the other.
Yeah.
So in some ways it mimics the back and forth of a game, right? Just like progressing from one end to the other.
Yep.
So I've heard a lot in coaching circles about possession with purpose.
Yep.
So is that kind of the point of doing it that way?
Yeah, it's interesting. So the first time I saw it, I was concerned, because if you're playing sort of the 5, when the ball goes to the other end, you're now the 9. You're the person they're trying to get it to. If you're on the flanks, at one point you're the 3 and the 11, but if the ball comes back the other way, you're now the 2 and the 7, if you follow me.
Yeah.
So I wasn't completely sold on that, but what I think is the Spanish inspiration is essentially flank players have to have skills, whether they're left or right or up or down. Mm-hmm. Central players have to have that type of skill, whether they're deep or high. So that kind of made sense to me. So then the numbering system began to apply, and then really what it's about is trying to avoid playing essentially square passes, but always using supporting angles, or better, hitting diagonal balls from the deep on one side to the high on the opposite side. And if you look at Barcelona and Spain in their pomp, there was a lot of those short angle passes that
2009-ish we're talking?
Yeah. Well, 2008 to 2012, yeah.
Yeah. I also saw you talking to the kids a lot during the session about almost trying to draw people in so you can split the lines.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, how do you persuade kids to do that? Or how do you teach them that?
I will, just as a quick shout out to the Chicago Fire, because they brought their U14 top academy kids. So it's quite easy to have a session that looks halfway decent when you have players of the caliber that they were. But what these kids understood was they were technically gifted enough, and they weren't being told. So if you put a one-touch restriction on them and the pressure doesn't come, there's no reason to get rid of the ball. So why would you make them play one touch?
Right.
They only have to play quicker if immediate pressure can be applied and they're under pressure. So if you start incentivizing in a rondo, for example, even though you're working with the possession group, if you can incentivize or encourage the defending group, give them some incentive to not be the defending group for very long so they can transition out.
Yeah, because that's what they always want, right? They want out.
They bring pressure, so now pressure comes in, so they're not standing off. So now the players can't, they've got to be technically comfortable to deal with it. They've got to look to get out from short options, but they've got to have the vision to see where they want to go.
Right.
And one of the challenges with more of the sort of the 4v2 in a 10x10 is you never have to get your head up beyond 10 yards. But if you make it in let's say a 15x30, and the idea is to get to the guy 30 yards away, you have to be always aware of that bigger pass, and you might only be able to play it by playing a series of shorter ones, bring the pressure in to then release the longer one.
Is there any temptation for the kids to just go long, like from back to front, like big direct ball? Because we're pictures with the team Taylor and I coach. We know a lot of our players like to almost find loopholes around the structure of the drill.
Yeah.
And I could see them just chipping it from one end to the other, and that would end up being the game.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. I had a player at my previous college, a 3-time All-American, played professionally, was all-white for New Zealand. And any training session I came up with a certain lack of logic, he would break the training session and then just look at me and say, there you go, fix it, because he was that smart. We would say to the players, if the pressure comes, but you can see the long ball, play the long ball. So this aversion to playing more direct, to playing a longer ball, if it's played with purpose, and if it's played as a result of you've shifted the opponents to you, why would I play 6-7 short passes if I can get the ball to where I want to get in one?
Oh, so why not?
Yeah, but now what we'd be talking about, so what was great with the Chicago Fire kids was I said, all right, I've just passed it back and forth here 3 times. We haven't got to our target, but what's good about this? And to a man, they all said, well, we've still got the ball. Where have we got it? We've got it right now in front of the opponent. So let's just keep moving it until they get sick of it and come and get it, and then we'll hit our target. And you know, you can break it down into that sort of simple, not to demean the players, but it was that simple. What's this? Possession. Is this good? Hell yeah. Okay, where do we want to go? Over there. So let's keep doing this until we can go over there. That's where we want to go. That's our goal, if you will.
Yeah.
But it can be achieved by playing it in one pass, or it could be achieved in playing 6 before we can play the one.
A final question then. It seems like you do want to have like a message about rondos. If you could like tell all American coaches what to do with the rondo going forward, what would that brief message be?
I would use them a lot for technical development, and then if you've got a good enough group and you understand, use it for tactical development. And then sometimes just encourage the players, if you're at a grassroots level, get your kids to pick up a little 4v2 keep away before training instead of going and shooting on an empty goal, a stationary ball. And then if you've got a good group of lads, which I could have got with the Chicago Fire, had them for a little bit longer, is now start poking at each other. Keep him in the middle. I want you to stay in the middle, so I'm going to laugh at you the longer you stay in the middle. So a little bit of gentle banter.
Yeah.
Because if you go around the world and you watch pro clubs and they'll start off with a rondo as their own private warm-up, they give each other so much stick, and everybody gets it. And I think there's a personality part you can bring out in there, in addition to the technical, tactical benefits.
All right, Ian Barker, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.